and Mr. Justice Hannity. But most importantly, this is more reflective of the paranoia on the left and the right that's going on in America and polarizing this country so badly. Jay and I, as Jay is a conservative and myself as a liberal, are able to exchange views in a civil way with Sean Hannity as a civil moderator. What's going on the Twitter and the internet is lunacy. If you read some of these comments, it's not Jay analyzing this calmly. It's complete
why are we
lunacy.
attacking people that have
and
a different
nobody
view?
is mentioning Ronald Reagan, and I'm only saying that it's the extreme interpretation that causes the polarization in this country, Sean.
And the president has never contributed to this by saying Republicans want dirty air and water and want kids with autism, Down syndrome fending for themselves. He's never contributed to this at all.
I don't like rhetoric. I don't like the extreme rhetoric. Sometimes I think the president has gone too far, and so has the Republican Congress. And when there was a Republican president, there were recess appointments, guys. So let's be even.
Not recess appointments while they were in session. That never happened until Obama.
This session was one senator holding the floor. This session was one senator holding the floor, and that was an abuse of the
very clear.
They are recess appointments only when they're in recess, and they're not in recess.
With one senator
coming up, is it possible that the president?
All right, now we've talked about these recess appointments before. I don't want to get off on track on this, but a recess appointment, when he appoints somebody to a job or anything that the president appoints to, a recess appointment is when an appointment needs to be made, but Congress and the Senate are on recess. That's when a president is allowed to make these recess appointments, but he's doing it while we're in session. That's illegal, and it's not a legal appointment. You can't appoint people to jobs that has to go through the Congress and Senate while they're in session. You can't do that, but yet he does it, and he gets away with it. That's how he's thumbing his nose at the Constitution. Well, what's important here is through this NDAA bill, this is what's critical, is there's a redefinition of the Terrorist Act and who terrorists are. And it's important to understand that all you have to do is have the government classify you as a homeland security threat, dub you as a terrorist, and then you go on the watch list. Here's what's dangerous of how they actually dub who is a threat to America and who is not.
The convergence of globalization and technology has created a new brand of terrorism. There were persons who, for whatever reason, came to view their home country as the enemy.
The kind of right-wing, religious-based domestic terrorism.
Disturbing news tonight about homegrown terror.
Part of this is big change in the White House, a new cultural experience, and some of the crazies are coming out of their closet.
Right now, it looks like there is no connection between the men arrested and any known terrorist cell. Homegrown. Homegrown, I should say.
Folks, we've got a very serious situation here. I'm holding what is called the right-wing extremism, current economic and political climate, fueling resurgence and radicalization and recruitment. And in it, we talked about the fact that they define pro-lifers as domestic terrorists. They put this in a Department of Homeland Security document, this official assessment, now saying pro-lifers, people that believe in end-time prophecies, people that are opposed to the administration's position on immigration, those of us that are standing up for the sanctity of life and for the sanctity of marriage, all of those are now potential, and this is what they're saying, domestic terrorists.
It's a terrorist next door that could be our bigger threat.
They call people who believe in the sanctity of life, who believe in owning firearms, who believe in serving their country in the military and coming back, who are very concerned about the policies that this nation is embarking on, spending too much money, taxing too much. It's all listed right here. These are the domestic right-wing extremists.
1 million names under the watchful eye of the United States. America's so-called terrorist watch list has hit the record number, according to one of the country's most prominent civil liberties groups.
That's a lot of people to keep track of. They're adding new people all the time.
It's a secret list that you don't know really quite how one gets on, and you don't know how you get off.
They're coming out and profiling huge groups of people. You know, if you voted for a certain political candidate, you should be considered a potential threat. And you couple that with things like the Patriot Act, where if you are a threat in their eyes, you can be held without access to judge, jury, and without access to a lawyer or even to your family. That's very concerning because we've watched our country go through and do this to brown people, overseas. They're rounding up enemy combatants and they're putting them in camps and they are torturing them. That is a fact. We know that.
In Missouri, a new document meant to help Missouri law enforcement agencies identify militia members or domestic terrorists has drawn criticism. The February 20 report, called the Modern Militia Movement, mentions such red flags as political bumper stickers for third-party candidates, such as Ron Paul, who ran for president, talk of conspiracy theories, such as the plan for a superhighway linking Canada to Mexico, and possession of subversive literature. So the state police in Missouri have been told that if you see a car with a bumper sticker that opposes the so-called creation of North American Union, the superhighway, that you are probably following a militia member, that you are following an anti-government radical. If you see a car with a bumper sticker that says Ron Paul for president, you might be dealing with a violent radical. Exercise extreme caution.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty clear indication of the broad spectrum that they not only can but plan on using to identify you and I, well, probably more me, as a domestic terrorist. And they've put so many of these things in place, so many of these laws in place, that programs like this can not only be called domestic terrorism, but also hate speech. Now, let me give you an example of the way they use little minor, what seemingly meaningless laws to slowly, step by step, cut by cut, restrict whatever the goal is to restrict. And this same thing is coming with gun control. They're going to do it with gun control with the high-capacity magazines. Then they're going to add something else, and then add something else, and then add something else. As most of you know, I'm broadcasting from the beautiful state of Oregon. Please don't come here. And here in Oregon, they started with the smokers. And I thought this was interesting because this was such a good example of the way it slowly restricts something out of existence. Now, whether or not you agree that somebody should be able to smoke or not is not the point. Here's the point. They told the tobacco companies that if you want to sell tobacco products, cigarettes or cigars, in this state, you have to put something in the cigarette or the cigar that makes it go out by itself when it burns halfway down. Because they were afraid that cigarettes were starting fires. And, they have started fires in the past. But since they put this restriction in place, there hasn't been an increase or decrease in cigarette-related fires. So it started out with you cannot sell a tobacco product that burns in the state of Oregon unless it goes out by itself when it reaches the halfway point. Well, that seemed like a kind of a worthless situation. Then we had the situation where a person was out on his back deck smoking, and the neighbors called the police and complained that they could smell it. The police showed up and tried to tell the guy he couldn't smoke on his back deck. Well, then Oregon passed a law that said you cannot smoke inside of any building in Oregon, whether it's a privately owned club, a bar, a tavern, a place of business, anywhere. And if you were going to smoke, it had to be a certain amount of distance from any man door or any entryway or exit into or out of the building. And they just continue to repile all of these things on over and over and over. Well, Oregon was one of the states that got this big tobacco settlement. It was It was millions and millions of dollars in tobacco settlement. And this money was designated, when Oregon received it, that it was going to go for smoking prevention. Well, this was a few years ago, and this money was dedicated to help people stop smoking, and to put in programs in place in schools so kids didn't start and stuff like that. Not one single penny over these years have been spent for any of that, and this tobacco money is gone. Where did it go? Well, when people of Oregon ask, where did this money go that's supposed to go for prevention? Why are you not putting these prevention programs into place? Well, that money's gone. So the people of Oregon said, where did it go? They say, it's none of your business. Sit down and shut up. Don't even ask. It's not your business. And they do the same thing with taxes or anything else. Anytime you want accountability for where they've spent any kind of anything anywhere, they say, it's not your business. Sit down and shut up. So and this gun ban is going the same way. They're going to start little bit by little bit by little bit. And they're going to ban guns, or they're going to make it so impossible that you won't be able to fire it if you do have it. Now, let me tell you something else that's happened. Now, we've already determined so far in the program that the Department of Homeland Security has these armored tank vehicles, these IED-resistant armored vehicles, which you can see the video of, a full tour of these vehicles. I'll say it sooner or later. These vehicles, a tour given by the police who are going to use these things. On the website, right on the front page, wdeanshook.com, go watch this video so you can learn and see what these vehicles look like, their capabilities. They have run-flat tires, so you can shoot out the tires and they won't go flat. These vehicles can still go. You want to go look at this vehicle. Go look at the paramilitary police who are going to use this vehicle. So we've established these vehicles. We've established that they're going to put domestic surveillance on predator drones, not regular harmless drones, on predator drones for use in American streets. We've determined through the NDAA bill so far that they have the power to call anybody they want a domestic terrorist, put you on the list without your knowledge and no way to get off of it. All you have to do is be somebody like me or hundreds of other people who are on the air talking about these things as being a threat to America. Well, get this. The Department of Homeland Security has been buying large amounts of ammunition over the last few years. Well, over the ammunition they already have, they have now ordered another 1.2 billion rounds of ammunition. And along with that, 7,000 fully automatic assault rifles. The amount of ammo purchased comes to a little over 2 billion rounds and 7,000 fully automatic assault rifles. Now, while the typical explanation for this purchase is that the rounds are for training. Training. That's what these rounds, hollow points, and they're for training, hollow points. They need hollow points for training. Hollow points are not made for training or for target shooting. Hollow points are made to do as much destructive action as they possibly can. As soon as they hit the target, they spread open. These things go in the size of the bullet, and they come out the size of a silver dollar or bigger. And they tumble and roll and expand as they go through the human body. That's what they're designed for, not for training. They are not typical for target shooting. Why are they stockpiling this ammo? Shortly after attention began to be drawn to this purchase, DHS blacked out all information on the solicitation for this ammo, and they blacked out all of the solicitation for these 7,000 fully automatic assault rifles. They now ban that information. You cannot find that information anymore, that they're buying assault rifles.